And I'm pretty sure that we just started on the words God's balls. So anyway, hey, true believers, it's England Teen here. I'm here with Chef Jack. No, that's when you say hi, dude.
Hi, dude.
And my friend Rob, he's been on a couple of live streams. You guys should be getting to know him already. All righty. And we just want to talk some Reynolds, man. This is the old fart stream. I actually put out the feelers. Hey, you want to come on and talk some Burt Reynolds? And it was everybody. I thought, who's 40? That was basically
just out of curiosity. How long have all of us known each other? I mean,
30. We talked about that the first time Rob joined us. It was 35 years now.
Has it been 35 years? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, you and I have known each other a little bit longer.
Yeah, a little bit longer, just a tad, brothers and all, but geez.
Alrighty. No, by the way, we are being asked a question already, and no, Burt Reynolds never did a comic book movie. He did a cartoon called All Dogs Go to Heaven.
I think the closest he came was the video game movie, didn't he? The one he made for Uwe Boll. I can't remember the name of it yet.
That was
in the name of the king.
The Dungeon Siege one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Hey, he starred beside a superhero, and we'll be talking about that. He was not the superhero. As a matter of fact, he found the superhero very annoying, and we will be talking about that in just a little bit. And one of my favorite Stroker Ace is being already brought up. I like this, man. Y'all were like waiting, just going, let's talk about it. Woohoo! Which, that's kind of the cool thing. I mean, how to start off to talk about Burt Reynolds? Okay, first of all, I'm not going to blow smoke up anybody's ass. The man was. I love the fact he made a movie last year called The Last Movie Star, because he is definitely one of the last movie stars. And by that, I mean, not only did he was he big in films, and guys, if you're younger than us, if you're like younger than 40, he was huge in the 70s.
In the 70s, he could do. I mean, it was one of those. He'd walk into a studio and go, "I think I want to make a movie about a milkman," and the milkman's just going to sit there in front of his TV and watch soap operas all day and drink beer, and the studios would go, "Here's the money. Make the movie. Make the movie." Yeah. And of course, it would make $100 million.
the only modern day people I can think of, and one of them's not really modern, is Tom Cruise and The Rock. Yeah, as far as movie stars, not just stars of movies, but actual cultivating the personality, the whole 9 yards. I don't know if I would say Tom Hanks is even in that category, but I guess it's the over 40 club. I was talking off script. I said, okay, I'm a comic book channel, and we're talking about Burt Reynolds. So this will probably be the lowest audience. Well, I mean, it's all the old people coming over to chat about it, and that's really cool. So who do we have in the house? We have Dayton Pfeiffer. Hello, sir. I remember when I was young, he says, I saw Smokey and the Bandit for the first time. I always wanted to have a Trans Am. Everybody in the 70s and 80s wanted to have a Trans Am thanks to that movie. That's what Jack said just a little bit. Hey, MK Geiger, how you doing? Maverick, what's up? Jason Cup is talking Hooper already. Let's see. I know he was huge. I remember watching TV versions of Burt Reynolds when I was growing up. I got to say I liked Evening Shade. I enjoyed his TV show.
Evening. Two syllables. Evening. WK said something, and I have to agree with here. He says, the weak continuity between White Lightning and Gator always disturbed me. Well, yeah, that's what happens when 20 years separates a film from its sequel.
Yeah. But here's the thing about this huge, massive movie star. I read an article where he said that Smokey and the Bandit was both a boon and a burden to his career, because after he did Smokey and the Bandit, instead of going after the roles that would get him accolades like Deliverance did, he went after what he thought the audience pleasers were, what people wanted to see him in. So instead of doing
that sounds about right, given some of the movies he made after Smokey and the Bandit.
Yeah, so he really I'm sure. Now, I should have brought up this page, but I'm sure there's, if you can look it up, there's got to be something you can look up where it's like, oh, he chose to do this movie instead of.
Well, let's see. Immediately after Smokey and the Bandit, he had Semi-Tough. Then he had The End, which was not.
We're going to be talking about later.
Yeah, we will be. Then Hooper starting over, Rough Cut, Smokey and the Bandit Part 2. He wisely did not do Part 3. Naturally, he left that to Jerry Reed.
That was the Smokey and the Bandit series was on Hulu recently, so I watched all of them, and that is definitely a franchise of waning quality.
Smokey and the Bandit 3. Smokey is the Bandit.
Smokey is the Bandit. Yeah, little Bill and Ted action there. So yeah,
we will get the Cannonball Run failed Grace.
Yeah. Cannonball 1, Cannonball Run was 1981 failed Grace.
Yeah. But anyway, okay, so you mentioned first impressions and all that. Honestly, for me, it was Smokey and the Bandit. Obviously, we're too young for Deliverance when Smokey and the Bandit came out.
First one I saw was The Longest Yard.
The Longest Yard?
Yeah.
What about you, Rob?
I think for me, the first one I might have seen, but I don't remember much of, was Gator. But the thing that stuck out for me, which I was going to tie into some other stuff that we had talked about a few weeks ago with My Bodyguard, was that back then in the 80s, and this may offend some people in the channel, we didn't really have a lot of fat people in the 80s. If you were fat, you were fat. But we did have facial hair. So if you were an adult, you really stood out. And Burt Reynolds, he was an ex-football player. He had that mustache. He had that look going on. You knew he was a man. And I just remember being in goofy movies.
Burt Reynolds' mustache is still alive.
Yeah.
I'm sure his toupee is not, but you never know.
Yeah.
Before they called it the porn stash, it was the Burt Reynolds stash.
Yes.
I want that pointed out. I'm serious.
Yeah, I mean, dude, you get, it's like there was only one person, and I'm not going to mention who it is, and because you should know this, but there's only one person who could challenge the Reynolds stash. I mean, otherwise, you get people like Prince who just look like they were growing random pubic hair everywhere. It was just, yeah, that was an awesome stash, man. And of course, you do know who I'm talking about that could challenge the stash.
Yes, Tom Selleck.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Tom Selleck. Yeah, we got Rob. Yeah, that's it, man. Seriously, it was pure awesomeness. I cannot. Like for 10 years, Gail made me wear a mustache, and by that I mean. I hated that freaking thing, but she liked it, and I was like, okay, whatever. I don't give a fuck.
For the record,
it looked like a caterpillar was crawling across my face.
For those people listening to us now, as his older brother, I want to tell you, I'm the only one who can grow decent out of the three of us, the three brothers. I'm the only one who can grow decent facial hair. You can't do it at all. Nathan, all Nathan can do is grow the beard. He can grow the beard. The mustache is crap. I'm the only one who can pull it off.
Nah, you know what? What I think is funny. There's a movie called Joe Dirt with David Spade, and he goes, "Nah, my facial hair just grows like this," and it's like in those hillbilly mutton chops. I laughed my ass off because I went, "Hey, somebody else has that ailment." That's why I just don't grow it, because it naturally comes in looking like crap. So, yeah.
A slight non sequitur, getting off topic here, but to try to relate it to his mustache. What I distinctly remember growing up watching movies was, again, you had people that looked like teenagers or young men, and then you had men that looked like men. They're physically big and posing, unlike a lot of today's movies.
Yeah.
And you go back to Christine, there's that scene where the nerd's getting his lunch stabbed with from the guy that's got the most fantastic mutton chops I've ever seen.
Oh, God, yeah, didn't he?
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic.
By the way, we are being...
Oldest teenager I have ever seen in a movie.
Yes, but they existed.
We are being challenged on the mustache thing by Sam Elliott and Charlie Bronson. So
Charles Bronson and Sam Elliott both had their own styles of mustache, though.
Yeah.
They were not porn. Neither one of them wears a porn stash.
They didn't emphasize what was going on in the 70s with the whole hair look and just the whole masculinity part of it. It was just they had facial hair, or this guy's a redneck, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
This is a bit of a different thing, and it was a thing back then, not like today where everybody's really smooth.
Right.
You know,
it's a thing. It was not that way back then. Absolutely not.
If you look at the most famous picture from Smokey and the Bandit, it's Burt sitting in the Trans Am, and it's close up on him, and he's holding up the V for victory, and he's wearing the hat with the hat has a hat band and a belt buckle on his freaking hat, and he's just doing that grin, and there's the porn stash and the grin. That is what we're talking about. As far as as Burt Reynolds working that mustache. None of the other two worked it like that.
That's true. That is true, sir. Wow. So
I have to give that's a +1 for inside joke, because absolutely Rick Rude, a man's man, and he had the stash. You're absolutely right. No question about it.
You know, a lot of people, after Reynolds died, a lot of people, came out and they did their Twitter thing and everything. But the one person I wanted to hear from, as far as celebrities talking about, wasn't really Sally Field. And God bless her. She did a really good memoriam for him. But I wanted to hear Norm Macdonald, because he's actually played Burt Reynolds and then his son in the whole 9 yards. And he does like that perfect impersonation of him.
Yes.
I really wanted to hear from him.
I've always been here, Alex.
Yeah, it's a big hat. Big hat's funny. Yeah, yeah. So anyway, what I was saying, I don't want to blow smoke up anybody's ass. He was a big movie star, but unfortunately, he ended up getting in his way because he was very confrontational, and he had a temper when it came to critics and people who didn't give him his way on movie sets. So he became hard to work with. And that's why he went from doing stuff like Smokey and the Bandit to Cop and a Half. So, yeah. It's true. It's true.
It is. It's absolutely true. It is.
And that happens to quite a few movie stars and such. But he did have a great he did have a great run. And yes, as Ed Brewer is pointing out, he did also marry Lonnie Anderson.
Yes, he did.
And you want to talk about actresses that put kids in through puberty in the 80s.
I had that poster. That poster, Lonnie Anderson in the red one-piece bathing suit
with the nipples.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Back then, that was something. Now with the internet, it's like, we could see it anytime. Back then, that nipple poster was a big thing. And I was we were both huge WKRP.
Oh yeah,
fans.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But not just for Lonnie Anderson. She was just one of the elements.
Yes. Yeah, that is true. It was good for her. And I remember you had more of a crush on Bailey.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I admit I liked Jan Smithers more than not that I complained about Lonnie Anderson, but I liked Jan Smithers more.
Mm-hmm. Did you watch that show, Rob?
Occasionally. I was not a huge fan of it.
Communist.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Did not enjoy greatest sitcom ever made.
I hate laugh tracks.
I understand that, especially these days. I was watching a show and I actually felt I felt the timing. Like it was like, ha ha ha, here's the joke. 2, 3, 4. Next line. 2, 3, 4.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, Eric Breen is agreeing with you that Bailey was better than Jennifer. Yeah. I like strong women, so I was into Mrs. Carlson. No, I'm just kidding.
You're also a B. Arthur fan, let's face it.
Oh, no. Well, Maude was okay. Now you want to talk about unpopular opinions. I didn't like the Golden Girls.
No.
Right. That's the view count just dropped. Yeah. He likes Last Jedi, but doesn't like Golden Girls. Leave, run. That'll get you. So anyway, we went ahead and we have compiled our top 5 Burt Reynolds films, and I figure what we could do is we'll start with 5. We'll go around, say what it is, talk about it. If you've got yours on the list somewhere down, just save it. We'll talk about it a little bit more as it goes. We do not know what each other has on our lists, so we may have some overlap here. The one rule, because I knew we were going to talk about it anyway, and we can start with it, was you can't put Smokey and the Bandit on the list. Because of course that was really what made Burt Reynolds huge. I mean, he did some movies beforehand, Deliverance being one of them, but it was Smokey and the Bandit that just shot him through the stratosphere. And tell you the truth, I saw that recently, and it holds up as a comedy. It really does. It's a stupid, silly comedy that's just a lot of fun. And I am sorry, but as much as I love Burt in that movie, Jackie Gleason, I'm gonna barbecue that he took off, man. He had some great lines in that, and I've got to say, Sheriff P. Buford Justice.
Buford T. Justice.
Buford T. Justice. That was right. That's right. He was golden as it. What do you think of that movie?
We're talking about Smokey for a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Smokey before we get into the top 5.
I'll tell you what. If it weren't for the fact that Star Wars came out in the same year, Smokey and the Bandit would have been my favorite film that year. I mean, we only watched it about 9 times.
Yeah. In
the theater, and then every time it came on television for the next 15 years, we'd watch it. I mean, hell, even now. Oh, hey, look, Smokey and the Bandit's on. Yeah, what part is it on? Okay, it doesn't matter. Let's sit down and watch it. And we watch it. So, yeah.
For me, the first James Bond movie I ever saw was The Man with the Golden Gun. And it has that one guy in it when they're doing the flip over the river and all that. And he's supposed to be like a play off of him. And I remember seeing between that and Smokey, I saw relatively around the same time. They're going, are they the same guy? Are they not? Are they the same character or not, or what? And I just thought, okay, he's driving around in a car. I really just didn't get it at that time. So to me, I was just always like,
not your cup of tea as much, huh? Oh, yeah. And I did like the way Sally Field looked in that movie back in the day.
Yep.
Yeah.
She was pretty tight. Look at her when she's changing clothes and everything in there. Yeah, she was pretty tight when she was a younger lady.
But, aside from the trucker movies, the 70s were, I think, probably the first decade, I'm just talking off the top of my head here, that had movies where people were traveling in cars or something, and you saw it, and you went on road trips, which a road trip movie is always kind of a good one, like a buddy movie.
Well, they definitely had road trip movies before that. I mean, It Happened One Night.
That's effectively a road trip movie, isn't it? Yeah.
But let's see, the big car chase movie.
Oh, geez.
You had like French Connection.
Well, it started off with...
Yeah, but that wasn't a car chase movie.
That's not a traveling buddy movie, though.
Yeah. The first one I can think of was the Gumball Rally, which was a direct ancestor to the Cannonball Run because it was about the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it was... Geez, what was it, like 5 years prior? I think the Gumball Rally. Gumball Rally was Peter Fonda. It was the next film he did after... for crying out loud, why can't I remember this movie name? The one that had Born to Be Wild as the theme song.
Oh, Easy Rider.
Yeah. The next film he did after Easy Rider was the Gumball Rally, and it was basically Cannonball Run without Burt Reynolds' group of friends.
Wow, you just all of a sudden...
my voice just cracked up. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. All righty, so... we'll go down the line. Jack, you want to start off? What is your number 5 best Burt Reynolds film?
The Player.
Oh, well. Oh, come on. That's not a Burt Reynolds movie, though.
Hey, he's in it.
On this. Okay,
he's in
okay.
it. It's a good movie. You know, I'll be honest. I didn't want to put Cannonball Run on this list, so I'm going with The Player.
Okay. All right. Talk about The Player a little bit, because it's a Tim Robbins. I'm calling a foul on this a little bit though, because it's a Tim Robbins movie instead, not a Burt Reynolds. But
well, it's
by all means.
It's about the Hollywood insider system, how to make a movie. It's a thriller. It's got a bit of a romance to it. And yes, I'll admit it's more of a Tim Robbins movie than a Burt Reynolds movie. But I'm sticking by my guns. He's in it. It's a Burt Reynolds movie.
Okay. Did you see this one, Rob?
I'm looking at it now, and it has Gina Gershon in it, so I may have, but I certainly do not remember it. And since it's cameo, it's right. Also a foul.
That's right. You are a big Gershon fan. Well, if I remember correctly, but and Showgirls told us why.
I'll be honest. When I made my list, I didn't want to put Cannonball Run on my list because I figured we're going to end up talking about Cannonball.
We are going to be. Trust me, we're going to be talking
about Smokey.
Yeah. But of all the things you could have chosen, wow, you chose
a good movie.
It's a cameo. I don't know.
But it's a great movie.
I'll leave it up to the comment section, as I always do. Do you think cameos count on this? As we're hearing, Gumball Rally is really good. That's from MK Geiger here. Mad World is being brought up as far as the car chase movies from Ed Brewer. Yes, sir.
That's a good one.
Pull.
Yeah,
good pull. He was in Saints Row. Yes, he was. Boogie Nights, of course. I'm sure that'll be brought up later. His Playgirl spread in disguise thing. It's not a movie, but maybe we'll get to that. Three Straight Guys get it. We'll talk about that. Switching Channels would have been better, or Best Friends. Jack? Yeah.
Fine.
All right, Rob, what
you want me to start talking about At Long Last Love, the musical dancing Burt Reynolds movie?
Rob, what do you have for number 5?
Well, it was a close one. I was going to have The Man Who Loved Women or whatever that one was, but I don't remember much of it. I couldn't get through it, but I remember it being a comedy with him. But unfortunately, I picked something that I thought was great because it had one of my first childhood idols in it, Parker Stevenson from the Hardy Boys, and it's a horrible movie, but at the time I thought it was funny, and that's Stroker Ace.
Stroker Ace. Oh my! You know what? That's the whole thing. What you said right there is so poignant as far as Stroker Ace is concerned. When you're a kid, that movie is 10 kinds of badass.
It really is. Yeah,
I know. It was funny. It was stupid. It just had the dumb laugh. They were having a good time. It came across in the movie. I'd be afraid to watch it now.
You know what? And it has. I laughed. I remember laughing when we were teenagers watching this movie at the scene where Lonnie Anderson is passed out drunk, so he lays her down and he walks away, and then you see his head bend. You really look uncomfortable. Maybe I should undo this blouse. And then he walks away. He goes, "You still look uncomfortable. Maybe I should." And then it turns to it fades to black. I remember laughing my ass off at that scene. Which now of course we would have people go, "Oh, that's rape." But God bless the 80s.
That movie, I gotta say,
PG movies have Adrienne Barbeau getting naked. So I love the 80s for that kind of thing.
That movie, I think, is aside from Cannonball, is possibly the best example of what I call Burt Reynolds and his friends that hang out in front of movie cameras.
Oh my gosh, there are so many. Cannonball Run is that. But yeah, Stroker Ace, you're right, because it had Dom DeLuise, it had Burt Reynolds, it had Lonnie Anderson, it had Jim Neighbors,
Ned Beatty. Yeah. Half of NASCAR at the time is in that movie. Who else is there? It's just, it's like they made it in the South. They made it with a whole bunch of his best friends. They made it with his girlfriend at the time.
You guys are forgetting one name though, Elvira.
Yeah, that's right. She wasn't. Okay, how many people have ever said this? Who's a middle-ager and had HBO for the first time and walked and went, "Hey, Stroker Ace is fuck, that's Six Pack. God damn you, Kenny Rogers.
Oh yeah. Kenny Rogers has a lot to answer for.
Yeah, we actually probably wouldn't have used that language except for Rob. Rob was the one that introduced me to the F word. But yeah, I remember those two movies were very close together, and they're like, I don't want to watch this one. I want to watch Stoker Ace. Yeah. But yeah, that's a good pull. Well, for my number 5, we knew we were going to talk about it. I can't see shit. Can you?
What we need to talk about?
Jack, you're stomping over me. Hold on, it's my turn.
One last thing about Stoker Ace.
Okay, what's up?
Burt Reynolds, and I'm reading this off of the Wikipedia page here. Burt Reynolds turned down the role of Garrett Breedlove in Terms of Endearment to do Stoker Ace.
That was yeah. Wow.
I'm sorry for stomping on you, but that needed to be said.
Academy nominated Jack Nicholson for Terms of Endearment, and he did Stoker Ace. That's what I was talking about. You know, he definitely. He definitely picked, hey, I want to do the more popular things that he expected people wanted to see him in. So, well, I'm going to do that over, by the way, if Jack can be quiet.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I'm sorry for stomping on
Rob,
you,
I love the fact that you... I love the fact that you brought it up. I can't see shit. Can you?
No problem, son. No problem.
Yes, Cannonball Run, man. I still say that to this day. I use that whenever it's whenever like the window's fogged up. I'll go. I can't see shit. Can you? The scene in question is Terry Bradshaw. What's the Mel Tillis or
Mel
something?
Tillis.
Yeah,
Mel Tillis.
They're in their car. Their hood flies up over their windshield, and that's when he says it. And they, of course, go over one of those hidden ramps that were everywhere in the 80s to jump over a fence and into a swimming pool. God dang, that was a stupid fun film. The stupid fun is going to be brought up a lot when you talk about Burt Reynolds movies. They were funny in that. Remember, they're piling in like case after case of beer. Got enough beer? Perfect. Brought the food, and he holds up one bag of chips. Perfect. Yeah. That's some funny shit.
For some
MK
reason,
Geiger is saying Six Pack was good because of Diane Lane. Yeah, The Outsiders. But Cannonball Run is like Burt's Ocean's 11.
Yes.
And as I brought up before, he stars with a superhero. Dun, dun, dun. I am Captain Chaos. Yeah, Dom DeLuise. And that, you know, I'm at my current size, I could go cosplay as Captain Chaos.
This is true.
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, I think that would be a lot of fun.
There's still a few people I know that whenever you say something, they go, "Yes, GJ."
Yes, GJ. Okay, now
get yourself a NASCAR fire suit, a neon orange mask, and a cape, and you can totally
you could pull off a Captain Chaos cosplay. It's one of the easiest you could do. And that was also, I remember, Adrienne Barbeau in tight leather.
Oh, who was the other woman that was driving with her?
I do not know. Yeah,
was it Barbie? Was it Barbie Benton?
I don't think so.
It might have been.
Hold on a sec. I'm
looking it up.
Look it up on the yeah. Oh yeah, Cecil is definitely dressed like Captain Chaos. By the way, if you ever think, wow, that's an original look, nope. look up Cannonball Run, Captain Chaos. That is Cecil.
It was Farrah Fawcett.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Farrah Fawcett.
Oh wow, how are we not remembering Farrah?
Let's see: Burt Reynolds, Roger Moore, Farrah Fawcett, Dom DeLuise, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Jack Elam, Adrienne Barbeau, Terry Bradshaw, Jackie Chan, Burt Convey, Jamie Farr, Peter Fonda, George.
Wait a second, no, that's two, dude. That's two. Jamie Farr was in the second one. Yeah, that's Cannonball
Run, 1981. It's the first one.
Well, if you trust Wikipedia, because I still remember Burt Convey, and I always got him confused with Tom Jones back then, and I don't remember if it was the first or second.
You're probably not the only person. I mean, they do look, they do look alike. Mel Tillis. No, this is the first one.
No, that was the first one? Okay.
Yeah, this is the first one. Jackie Chan was in the first one.
Okay. All righty. I'll believe it. But yeah, my gosh, I like that film. That is, it's kind of weird. Oh, by the way, don't watch 2. 2 sucks.
Yes.
I mean, 2 is horrible. But yeah, the first one is still stupid fun. I like and I do admit sometimes they do blend. Like, was it the first one where where Dean Martin and Sammy Davis are dressed like priests?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, and they're in the Ferrari. God is our co-pilot. There's only 2 seats. Where's he gonna sit? Yeah, it was just so stupid and so silly. Tons of fun, really it was. But who won?
The chicks.
The chicks won. Okay.
Yeah,
everyone.
Yeah.
It was Farrah Fawcett and Adrienne Barbeau.
Yeah, damn. She was hot for the time.
Let's admit it right now. Every time we mention Adrienne Barbeau, my brother thinks of Swamp Thing.
Damn straight. Dang straight. So Swamp Thing, rated PG, boobs. Love the 80s. Yeah, I mean, damn, we saw a whole bunch of stuff like that. You know, go check out 1980s PG movies. It was booby. You know, and I remember looking in the HBO guide for that BN or N. so we knew to stay up until 2:00 in the morning because we might see a flash of tit. That's what we had to do. We didn't have the internet. Sue us. And yes, she was in Escape from New York in the Fog as Rob.
Married to John Carpenter for a while.
Yep. But her boobs in Swamp Thing were so impressive. Yes, they were, sir. Not a lot of people know that, but she was not walking in that water. She was just being held up. There's nothing wrong with Cannonball Run 2. It just wasn't as good as the first one. It was still stupid fun. I have a problem at the end, especially because if you watch the scene where they're all talking to Frank Sinatra, they are not in the same room with him. And that always bothers me when that happens. When somebody just, I'm too big to be in the same movie as you, especially when you're talking. But it's Frank Sinatra. What you gonna do? I don't know. So, Jack, what was your number 4?
My number 4 was The End.
This is the end. Yeah. Okay. Well, talk about it.
All right. Well, The End, of course, is this. He did this dark comedy. It also had Dom DeLuise in it. It starts off with Burt Reynolds being diagnosed with cancer, terminal. He's gonna die from it. Absolutely gonna die. And there's a joke toward the beginning where he's like, "I never suspected cancer. I just thought I'd found this fantastic weight loss program where you throw up everything you ate." And but for the entire rest of the movie, he's dealing with it, and he finally decides he's gonna kill himself. And of course, Dom DeLuise is this psychotic guy who's gonna help him die, and it's really funny.
From your description, it's a laugh riot.
Oh no, it really is. I mean, it's you think, hey, it's about terminal illness, but no, it's actually very funny. And the scene at the end where he finally decides to kill himself, and he's swimming out into the surf, and he goes under the water and changes his mind. So he's pulling, tired and out of breath, and he's pulling back to the shore. And he's like, "Lord, if you help me get back to the to shore, I'll give you give 50% of everything I have, everything I own to the church." And as he's getting closer and closer, he's like, "Lord, I promise you, I'll keep that promise. That 30%, that 25%, I promise."
Just like I said, Lord, 10% of everything I own is yours. Yeah, that was a funny movie. The scene I like from it, and I don't want to talk too much but the scene I liked from it was Robbie Benson, who a lot of younger people would know as the Beast, plays a priest in the film. He feels, he wants to go get his soul clean, so he goes to confess at a Catholic church, and he's sitting there, and he says, forgive me, Father, I've sinned. And he names off a couple and goes, I've fornicated with many women. And he goes, really? How many? It's like, I don't know. Maybe
in that movie, wasn't he?
Yeah. Maybe I've fornicated about 1,000 times. Oh, wow. 1,000. It was just the way he said it was funny as fuck. Yeah, that's definitely one for the recommendations. What about you, Rob? What do you have for number 4?
Well, we were just talking about Cannonball Run because it was one of those pieces where, like you said, it's one of the last group of people that would get together with their friends, have fun, and just kind of say the hell with it. We just need a vehicle and some crappy stuff, and we'll just ad-lib half of it and have fun. And it comes across. Not too many movies like that these days, especially when it comes to comedy and just the charisma that comes out with everybody. But yeah, Cannonball Run was my number 4.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about it before, but it definitely is a lot of fun. But what you bring up is that he liked to hang around with friends and make movies, and that's kind of what Adam Sandler does nowadays. And he had him in the remake of The Longest Yard, so I think that kind of comes full circle when you bring that up. Going to the comments for a little bit. Let's see. We have always wonder about the USA movie ratings. Shoot people in the head, blood everywhere, PG. Show a boob, R-rated. Yeah, that is kind of weird.
We wonder about it too. We really do.
Yeah. Wow. Kristen McNichol says MK Geiger was in that one, and Robbie Benson. Yeah, that's right. Kristen McNichol played the daughter of Burt Reynolds in the end.
Yeah, and
as well as Sally Field. Yes.
I think that was because at the time he wasn't dating her.
Yeah, they were dating, and
Sally Field, right?
I think she has a nude scene in that one, as a matter of fact. So yeah.
In a Disguise, that was the one I was talking about. The end. The movie he was trying to die.
Yeah, he was trying to die in. Yeah, we've got some overlap, and Ed Brewer is bringing City Heat with Burt and Clint. Now, there was a story with Clint Eastwood and Burt Reynolds, and it's been said that it was at City Heat, and it was said that it was earlier. But it was something along the lines of after City Heat, that the movie did so poorly that Warner Brothers cut off their contracts, saying that Clint Eastwood was too ugly and Burt Reynolds couldn't act. And Burt Reynolds said, well, I'm going to go take acting lessons. I'll know what you're going to do, Clint. Yeah, so I kind of like that story. But when it happened is I've heard a couple of different things. So let's see. Matanui, a lot of times it seems like they can shoot people, but they got to remove the blood. That happens. That does happen. And yes, my brother is back. He's one of the old farts we pulled in to talk about some Burt Reynolds movies. Now, my number 4, gosh, I'm coming off like a complete perv today because I keep talking about nude scenes. But number 4
and that's different somehow.
I'm not talking about Asians.
Okay. Yeah, there you go.
But my number 4 is Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. I love this film. This is a musical comedy I can watch anytime. It's just it's like I say for a lot of the films we're talking about. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy the music. Burt Reynolds does get a song in this one, Sneaking Around with You with Dolly Parton. And it's very easy to tell who the actor is and who the musician is when they're singing it too. Because she's really hitting and he's like sneaking around with you. And he's just trying to make it so it's not completely tone deaf. We didn't have auto tune back then. So yeah, it was, but that's another one where he got together with all of his friends. You had Dom DeLuise playing the evangelist on television, the, what do you call it? The consumer reporter. You had Jim Nabors.
Marvin Zindler. He was a real guy.
Yeah. Well, everybody was a real person.
Yeah.
The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas is based on a true story. They actually interviewed the sheriff when the movie came out, and he said, well, they pretty much got it right, except for all the singing and dancing. And as much as I liked him, because he played the straight man in that film. Everybody else had the big joke. He had a few, but everybody else were the jokers and everything. And he was the silent, tough sheriff guy. And I like that movie. It's got some great music. Hard Candy Christmas, sung by Dolly Parton. Texas has a whorehouse in it, where you find out that Dom DeLuise can actually sing. Of course, it's got Jim Nabors, and they gave him how many songs?
A bunch.
0. He has no songs in Best Little
Who am I
Whorehouse
thinking of? Oh, wait, I'm thinking of Charles Durning. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we're going to talk about.
I love to dance. A little sidestep. Yeah.
Let me get to that, man. But Jim Nabors was a professional singer as well, and they gave him 0 songs in that movie. I thought that was so weird, because he has a voice. Look up Gomer Pyle sings at the Abraham Lincoln Memorial, and you'll see that man can sing. But yeah, my favorite song, I actually had it in a video, was ooh, I love to dance, little sidestep. Now you see me, now you don't come and gone. And that was done by Charles Durning, of all people. And I've always tried, he does this thing with his hat where he puts it on sideways and then he turns his head and then walks. I've always tried that. I can never do that.
I remember, you know that fedora that I was given by my friend from Australia? You got so pissed off at me because I did it one day. I put it on and I went, watch this. Boom. And you went, son of a bitch.
Yeah, there were quite a few nude scenes, super fan. Yeah, but I will promise you striptease will not show up on this. That being said, yes, it was based on a Broadway play. And as a matter of fact, and this is how fucked up Texas can be, it forces you to play football, even though you are the smallest guy Texas has ever seen. I played running back in practice. Yeah, because out of bounds Butler, because I am not getting hit by that big fucker. No freaking way. Say again.
Oh, I'm back. We lost our electricity. We have storms over here. Sorry about that.
Oh yeah, we were going
Where
through
are
those
you
as
these
well.
days, Rob?
Lake Mary.
Oh, okay.
But but along with forcing kids to play football in our choir for a show, we did the Aggie Song. 21 miles until we get to heaven. That one, we're gonna womp and stomp and whoop it up tonight.
This was when you were in junior high school, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, it's in high school, but it was all about football players getting laid. And it's like, high school students, go. Of course, they changed the lyrics, so we weren't getting laid. They just kept, because they rhyme it with made. So when Aggie boys get made, and then they say laid later, they just kept it made. So yeah, we weren't actually singing about that, but we were. And I thought later, of course, I didn't think about it when I was in high school. I thought, okay, it's just a song. But then, when I was older and was looking back on it, I was like, that's kind of fucked. to have a whole bunch of teenage boys from high school singing the Aggie Song about going to the whorehouse to get laid. Yeah, tons of fun. Oh, and this guy's going, Rob was gone.
I missed you too.
But that was my number 4. How about you, Jack? What is your number 3?
Coincidentally, my number 3 is Best Little Whorehouse in Texas.
Now you continue, sir. Continue what I was talking about, I guess.
Well, it's a fun show. I mean, the songs are great. It's funny as hell. On real events. And it was real events that I remember from my childhood. When we were living in Houston, this actually happened, and it was on the news. And I remember that Marvin Zindler, Eyewitness News, he actually commented on the movie when it came out, and he said that he liked the movie. His problem was that they kept, the movie made it seem like he was trying to shut down the chicken ranch because it was, a house of prostitution, when the reason why he was actually trying to shut down the chicken ranch was it was a house of mafia-owned prostitution. And he honestly, the guy said, well, hey, a brothel's a brothel, fine, brothel's no big deal, but I didn't want those damn mafia goons in my city. And I'm like, Okay, not as much of a moral guardian as I thought he was back in the day.
They do that though. They do that with movies like this, like what they did. People versus Larry Flint, and Larry Flint is like this stand up for the First Amendment righteous dude, and then you read his history, and he's like, "Holy shit, this guy's
no, he's not." Yeah. But yeah, no, I just loved the film. I loved the fact that I mean, I have to admit, I'm a Dolly Parton fan anyway. I love her music.
She looked good. That was Dolly Parton at the time right there.
Yeah. And so that was two things, and Burt Reynolds fan, so that added into it.
You got to count Dolly Parton's twice. That was four things.
Okay, four things. So what's not to like about this movie? Seriously, and that's why I mean, I actually struggled whether I was going to put this at number 3
it's
or
a Japanese slingshot. Yep. That's Jim Neighbors, where he's got like a Speedo underwear. What is this? It's a Japanese slingshot. Yeah.
I was seriously figuring out the order of this list while we've been talking, and I've been sitting there going, "Am I going to put Best Little Whorehouse at number 2 or at number 3? At number 2 or at number 3? No, I'm going to do number 2. I'm going to do number 2.
Okay, Mr. Brin, what is your number 3?
We are at, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. If I have the correct movie, the reason why this is number 3 is because of the scene and how it really sums up the 80s. And when you're young, this stuff is very impressionable and makes you think badass. And that would be Heat with the credit card scene.
Oh, wait,
that credit card Heat credit card scene. I do not
talk about it there, Rob.
I don't remember that scene.
So he plays like this dude that's like a soldier of fortune, a tough badass, and so it's kind of violent. And all I remember is there's a scene in there, we used to talk about this for years, about where he takes a credit card, and I think it's American Express, because remember, don't leave home without it. That was huge, advertising credit cards in the 80s, because credit cards were not common even at that point. And he takes and he like slices the guy's throat, and he has all these really whacked out kills.
Oh, Jesus, yes.
Yes. I just remember being a lot of fun watching him. Instead of being a goof like in Cannibal, here he is, just being really vicious with people. And it was a lot of fun.
That's the one. That was the one I was talking to you about, Jack. I was like, wait a second, what's that one with Peter McNichol? That's the one I really like.
Yeah,
because that's this movie here. So yes, I absolutely agree with you. This is a really cool movie. I don't know if I would call it fun like the other ones, but it's definitely one of his better non-comedy films. There was a line though I remember liking quite a bit where he's at the casino and he drops down like $10 and it racks up and he's got a whole bunch of money and he loses everything at the end and he goes, "How'd you do?" "I lost $10. Yeah. I just love that line. But yeah, that's the one with Peter McNichol. A lot of people would know from Ghostbusters 2. Unless they're older and then we're like, hey, Dragon's Lair was cool also. But yeah, that was a really good movie.
Did you just say Dragon's Lair?
Dragon Slayer.
Dragon Slayer?
No, I said Dragon's Lair.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, Dragon's Lair.
You said it as one.
Yeah, one word, Dragon Slayer.
Okay, I heard you as saying Dragon's Lair, not Dragon Slayer.
Oh, well.
It's weird. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Never mind.
In Disguise is saying something about the scene when they pull out their handguns. By all means, join the conversation there, In Disguise. What are you talking about, the scene with the handguns? Because in all honesty, I've got pictures of this movie in my head rather than full-on memories about it.
I'm the same way.
Except for I do remember that Vegas scene. I mean, wasn't there? I do think a lot of it took place in a building, and
yeah,
wasn't there a European terrorist that wanted to rob some bearer bonds? I don't know.
Is this the one he's playing? Like, it's not the one where he's playing like a hitman. He's playing a professional bodyguard or something.
Yeah. Like a tough guy.
I'm remembering bits and pieces of it, not entire scenes.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So we got to search down some Burt Reynolds.
I mean, it's not like we've watched any of these or even looked at a lot of clips. I mean, that's kind of the whole thing. So, I mean, the fact that you remember some
it's all,
that's the one
memory.
That has the credit card scene.
Yeah. Hey, I'm actually surprised that Netflix or somebody hasn't announced it's going to be a Burt Reynolds thon because of him passing.
I have watched a lot of movies. Oh God.
Hulu, like I said, had Smokey and the Bandits recently, and that's why I could remember those very well. And Cannonball Run was on as well, so I was able to pull that. Him and Clint pull out their guns. Burt's is a big, and okay, that's in City Heat. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Number 3. We're going to go over it again, but my number 3 was The End. I've got to say, this is one that me and Jack were taken to see by our parents. They saw it first and loved it, so they figured it was okay for us, and we checked it out. And even as a kid, I laughed my ass off at some scenes. Didn't understand everything, got to admit, but what I did was funny as hell. I love the whole bit about you got a lot of rules about peeing, and Dom DeLuise trying to kill him.
I'm sorry, the scene it's the after he swims back on and he's getting up and he's
and, I want to live, and he pulls out the knife and starts chasing after him. Yeah, because he asked Dom DeLuise if Burt Reynolds couldn't commit suicide.
No matter what I say, no matter how much I beg, don't listen to me. I want to die. Okay.
Yeah, so he never stops trying to kill him. It's such a brilliant fucking comedy. I remember, of course, he tries to take pills and then just kind of throws them up on the thing. He's looking at me, he goes, my God, it looks like Disney threw up. So yeah, it's definitely a fun film, funny movie. I would obviously it's on 2 of our lists, so you should check it out. Jack, what is your number 2? Hey, Damonocracy, how you doing? Yes, rest in peace to Burt Reynolds, and we're having fun talking about his movies here.
Well, my number 2 takes us in an entirely different direction entirely. My number 2 is Boogie Nights, which, of course, is the biggest pay-in to the porn industry that we've seen in, decades. It was Burt Reynolds' comeback film. It proved once again that if he really tried, he could be a really great dramatic actor. And, he worked within a great ensemble cast to tell a wonderful story. I mean, not wonderful for the characters, obviously, but the story itself was great.
Yeah. He hated it?
I bet.
No, he really did. He fired his agent.
Did he?
He saw the movie. He absolutely hated it. He fired his agent. And that's when all the critics came in and they started talking about how great it was. And how
that's when he got the Oscar nomination.
Yeah. But no, he hated the movie and he hated Anderson, the director.
I did not know that. Yeah. I didn't know that.
So yeah, but like I said, Burt Reynolds always had this he had a bad temper and actually ended up trying to fight him. So yeah, that's actually, that was kind of famous. That and the fact that he tried to play it with an Irish accent first. And he started using an Irish accent, and what's his name? Marky Mark started laughing, so they got rid of the Irish accent. Yeah, but I mean, the man is golden in that movie.
He really is.
It's a really, really good film, and yeah, I thought he nailed it. And I'm sorry, it makes you feel bad for the porn industry to see how it changed.
Well, I think that's a good point because one of the things we've talked about before with movies and maybe to some extent comics or stories is that back then you literally had to work hard for your porn. You had to have somebody buy it for you if you wanted to look at a magazine or stay up past, I think it was 9 o'clock on HBO to see a boob or a tit. And, this movie, I think, kind of talks about how the porn industry was back then, which it's certainly not now. Anybody can get a camera, go online, and claim to be a star and all that too. And Burt, he did a good job in this movie. I think the movie was somewhat forgettable. It was one of those movies that was pretty hyped at the time, I remember, and I never liked that. But you're absolutely right in the comment about him. When he wants to be serious and wants to act, he showed everybody, hey, I can still do this, and I'm looking older now. And I think he might have had plastic surgery, and that showed in this movie, but it was done well at the time as opposed to what happened later. But yeah, definitely. And that's the one a lot of people, I think, going to remember. I think that's the dividing line between old Burt and more recent Burt.
Yeah.
Oh, what was this? Lost the 1997 Razzie Award for Worst Supporting Actor to Marlon Brando by a mere single vote. Reynolds was nominated for his performance in Striptease and Brando for his role in The Island of Dr. Moreau.
That was bad.
Both of those were bad.
Very bad.
I have literally blocked that film from my memory.
How the mighty had fallen.
Yeah. At the very least, Striptease has Demi Moore with her new boobies.
Overrated.
I know. I've got a running gag tonight, so I'm just kind of going off it.
I've reached the age where, honestly, if you've seen one tit, you've seen them all. It just big freaking deal.
I'm still of the age of you seen one tit, you want to see them all.
Maybe that's it. I have. So all right,
there you go.
But you don't see tits in movies today like you did back then when it was a thing.
Because I was
body is not celebrated.
It was because I was 15, and
he's talking about sheer numbers.
Yeah, the volume. Not even close.
Yeah.
Now they make it big. Oh, Halle Berry showing her boobies. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Halle Berry's boobies look like any other set of boobies I've seen. They're just attached to. I mean, I will say this. I think she's a very beautiful woman. I think she's very attractive, but her boobies are a pair of boobies attached to that face. I'm more attracted by the face.
Her breasts, her breasts literally look like somebody removed the real nipple and put 2 Hershey Kisses right on the end. I mean, it just doesn't look right. I also have something here. It says he turned down the role of Han Solo.
He's turned down. If you just made a list of what he's turned down, but yeah.
I'm looking up trivia on him, and it's like, here's another one. Sales of Pontiac Trans Ams increased 500% after Smokey and the Bandit. Pontiac was so grateful to Reynolds that it promised him a new Trans Am every year in
perpetuity.
Perpetuity. Thank you. Yes, I hate it when, I falter over the words.
Self-high-five.
Yes. The character design of the comedian Edward Blake in Alan Moore's graphic novel is said to have been based on Burt Reynolds. Let's tie that back up to the comic books, huh? You ask if he was in a comic book movie? No, he's in a fucking. He's not in a comic book. He's in the comic book. So there you go. That's kind of funny. That I did not know. I didn't know. All righty. So what do you have there, sir, for number 2?
Well, I think for me, as an aside, we can always do celebrity crushes and the history of them, because I was forced to think about that while looking at Burt Reynolds movies, because my number 2 is Sharky's Machine because of Rachel Ward.
Oh, Rachel Ward.
She was my second crush. My first was Olivia Newton-John, and then Rachel Ward came on, and I saw Sharky's Machine, and I was like, humming, who is this baby? But it's a good movie. It's actually a very good movie.
Wasn't she also in the Wilder Pryor movie? Wasn't she in one of those?
No.
No, okay.
That's the other one, but I see the similarity.
I see.
You guys talking about celebrity crushes, it just brings to home the difference.
Really talking about boobs, but
the difference in ages here, because when I want to talk about my first celebrity crushes, I go back to Elizabeth Montgomery and
Bewitched.
Yeah, which was a primetime series when I was a kid. It hadn't been off. It wasn't off the air yet. So you go back to Elizabeth Montgomery. You go back to what's her name? The original Wonder Woman, who's for some reason I can't remember right now. Linda Carter, Lonnie Anderson, and you're talking about Rachel Ward, and you're talking about different in ages, guys. Difference in ages.
Okay, since we're talking about crushes, we're taking a little side trip, but I want to talk about Sharky's Machine in a little more. But as far as that, here was always a debate as far as crushes are concerned: Blair or Joe.
Joe. At that time, it was Joe. Yeah,
absolutely.
Nobody wanted to talk to the other one. Yeah, no way.
Yeah, it's Joe all the way.
Especially when you know that the actress playing Joe was like some sort of religious cultist.
Oh, was he? I don't care. She was hot. Yeah, she is hot. So yeah, and I do agree with Eric Breen, and I usually saw it on afternoons when I didn't go to school. But Barbara Eden is Jeannie. Woof.
Yeah. She's not that Very bad nice. Looking now that she's 80. I mean, have you seen her? For an 80-year-old, she's pretty good looking still.
Yeah, but nobody really cares about Kathy Lee Crosby's Wonder Woman there in disguise. No, nobody talks about that one.
I remember
so just stop, go to real people, and do Coach. We'll see your boobs in that one, and that'll be fine.
I do remember Kathy Lee Crosby's Wonder Woman. I remember watching it, but
hey, Elijah the Armand's in the house. How you doing, sir? By the way, just to give a shout out, Elijah the Armand is in the house. For those of you who like Steven Universe, he basically broke it down and bitch slapped it. So check it out. It's a lot of fun. And all the other friendlies as well. Comics Division, Frugal, Nerdrotic Channel. Check them out as well. Mr. E. Corrupt. Alrighty, anyway.
I'm trying so hard not to really take this on a side tangent because Kathy Lee Crosby, the only thing she was good for is the fact that she was a host with John Davidson, who I'm marked out for on That's Incredible, because that was one of the first shows I ever saw. But that's it. Yeah. That's like what you knew her for. She played tennis, I think, too.
She did the basketball coach movie. It was called Coach.
Yeah.
That was it. Yeah. But, oh my gosh, yeah, we got to get some old people in here and talk about 80s movies one time. Because there's so many stupid 80s films that only us remember. You remember the that one, gosh darn it, Gabe Kaplan lost his memory. Robert Klein thought he was a woman.
Yes.
So many
what was films. His name? The guy who played the dad on Webster. He hallucinated his mother was always around. Right. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, we got to do one of these a little bit later. So anyway, we kind of skimmed over. Talk about Sharky's Machine a bit here, dude. What did you like about it and such?
Back in the 80s, we were talking about how you had violence, how you had boobs, blood, guts, gore, all that stuff. But it was kind of a pretty good movie all the way around. It wasn't a goofy movie with all his buddies. It wasn't something slapstick. I mean, it wasn't probably what's all going to be our number one, but I just remember it being one of the first movies too that you could actually have some stalking in it, because a lot of movies didn't really have it back then, because I think he's watching her and he's kind of like vibing on her and this and that, and then of course something happens and he ends up having to protect her or whatever. But definitely an adult film at the time, and he was always, Burt, able to raise it to another level if required at the time. Just because he chose not to do it in a lot of movies is okay by me. But yeah, I just remember going, wow, this is an adult movie with, a tough guy and a beautiful woman. And it just has that noir film to it, that feel to it that, I wasn't really exposed to a lot. Something that wasn't in style at the time.
Now, here's something. I don't remember anything of this movie.
You would.
Yeah, it probably, if I know I saw it when I was a kid, but yeah, I don't remember anything. It would be one of those things where probably, like you said, when we start seeing scenes, oh man, yeah.
The only thing I remember about it is it was one of the innumerable Burt Reynolds is a tough guy cop movies that he seemed to have done around that same period.
Yep.
That they're interchangeable. He did about 9 of them, and they're all interchangeable.
Damonocracy, when we do an 80s movie, yeah, sure. Jump in. Absolutely. Well, maybe next week, the week out. I'll get this together because I'm having a lot of fun talking the 80s films. especially the ones we might have to do the same thing where we like that movie's too famous. Obviously, like if you're talking top 80s films, you would have to take like Back to the Future off the shelf because it's obvious. I know it's your favorite movie, Rob, but it's obvious. You take those off so you could talk about the ones that are that people go, oh yeah, get that conversation started.
Super Fuzz. That Italian actor.
The best bad 80s films. The best bad 80s films that you only remember if you're an old fart. Yeah, because Super Fuzz. God dang, that movie sucked. You can probably find that on YouTube right now. Yeah, because I mean it is really bad. But we loved it as a kid, man.
Super.
What a shit movie that was. You remember that movie, Rob?
I try to not remember certain movies.
I know, it's such a piece of shit. But I do have to admit, we saw that a lot. HBO is new, so we would just watch it because it was on.
Yeah.
I know we're off on a tangent here. I'm going for my number 2 in just a little bit. But
speaking of tangents, the movie in question with the amnesia and Gabe Kaplan and all was Nobody's Perfect.
Nobody's Perfect, yeah. Okay. And they end up getting a cannon and going to like the governor's house.
Yeah.
You remember talking about bad 80s films, and we're going to have to do a whole show of this. Dirk Benedict,
Ruckus,
Linda Blair, and Ruckus. The First Blood ripoff that actually has a motorcycle love scene, and by that I mean it plays the romantic music as they are going by each other, and at one point they jump ramps and end up side by side, and it forms a heart, and it's just. What a great fucking flick that bad movie was. My number 2, on the other hand, spawned a TV show. And Burt Reynolds is even mentioned in the theme song. And yes, I'm going to sing again because I'm the unknown stunt man. And that is a movie called Hooper.
Okay. That one. Yeah.
I love this freaking film. This is one I can watch this any time of day, anywhere. I mean, I just put it on. I'm going to have fun with it. You have Burt Reynolds. He's playing an aged stunt person, an aging stunt man. And oh my gosh, I can't forget I'm forgetting his name.
Jan Michael Vincent.
He played the tough guy in like everything whenever they needed a tough guy in high school.
Yeah.
And he's the new stunt person. And the thing is, these are real physical stunts that are happening. No computers, of course. And at one point, they're saying, "Hey, he's gonna break the record for the longest fall." And a guy falls out of a helicopter into an airbag, and it's like, holy shit, they did that. It's really impressive.
Yeah,
And it's not just about the whole older stunt guy having to admit that he's losing a step while the younger one's coming in, but it's really about what stunt people do. And I've always said, for the longest time, I've always said that stunt work needs an Oscar, and it never has. But this is one of those cases where it really does. As fun as it is, as funny as it is, as enjoyable and action-packed as it is, it's also a love letter to stunt people. And if you like movies, this is a movie that's really good. And the cast is, I've got it up now, and I could see, it's Jan Michael Vincent, Burt Reynolds, Sally Field, Brian Keith, Robert Klein, James Best, Adam West. Bring it back to the comic book thing. Terry Bradshaw, of course, because he had to be in everything Burt Reynolds back in the day. But wow.
Are you looking at some of the trivia on this? Hal Needham said on a radio show that he decided he wanted a shot from the point of view of the stuntman doing the motorcycle stunt that opens the film, but that the stuntman himself had already left for the day. So Needham, the director of the movie, put on all the pads over his street clothes, climbed onto the motorcycle, and then did the stunt himself.
Awesome.
What kind of crazy ass motherfucker does that kind of thing?
There were a lot of drugs in the 80s, Jack. Nah, do you ever watch that movie, Rob? Do you remember that one?
Well, it didn't really register with me too much at the time, but as we've gotten older, one thing too to kind of talk about the difference in times is I think there's a little bit of a leftover 70s and 80s, probably the last feeling of this carnival sideshow type atmosphere with people, where on movies there wasn't a lot of CGI, a lot of effects had to be practical, but there was a lot of body use, not just from martial arts movies, but like you say, stunts. Whereas today, everything can be faked and phony, whereas there is definitely an appreciation of it. There was certainly a physicality of it. And for me, it made me appreciate a lot of what we don't see too much anymore, and what I think a lot of fans would really flock to go see, like the last Mad Max movie, just pure adrenaline, no CGI for the most part, just nonstop physicality, and you definitely had it then. And I was a huge fan of the Wild Wild West, and so when I saw this movie, I was like, oh wow. But it wasn't necessarily one of my favorite movies. It's certainly not a bad movie, and I wouldn't say it's goofy, but like you say, I think it's hard to appreciate the type of movie they're trying to make as far as the message, because that really, to me, doesn't exist too much these days.
No, not at all. I really don't think so. And I got to admit, as we get older, I'm getting more of an appreciation for movies like this, because I do like the fact that we can get our superhero films because of the computer graphics and everything. But there's also something to be said when you're watching Superman or Superman 2, and you know that everything you're seeing happened on screen. Let's see. Oh, here it is. Stuntman AJ Bacanis doubled for Burt Reynolds, dropped 232 feet, setting a record for the highest jump without a parachute. And it says Burt Reynolds and director Hal Needham both worked as stuntmen, so that's why Hal could jump on and do that stunt. The film was not just a tribute to stuntman in general, but perhaps the greatest of all, Jock Mahoney. And he's the stepfather of Sally Field. So yeah, it was a good movie. It's definitely one that if you have not yet seen, it's worth searching out, especially if you've heard about Burt Reynolds and you're like, wait a second, I want to check more out about this guy. It's one of the movies I would say you should go out and check out. Before we get to the number ones, do you guys have any honorable mentions?
Oh, geez. The Longest Yard didn't make my top 5 list, but it might have if I had more time to think about it. I argued over it, not only a fun prison comedy, and I know those don't come around very often, but it's a great football film. It's definitely one of the greatest football films ever made.
Yeah.
I think for me, because a year or two ago binge watched all of them, but I actually like the fact that there was this online kind of making fun of storyline that he was willing to, at his advanced age, be a part of, and that was an Archer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He goes crazy about
not a movie, but definitely
he's dating his buddy's mother. I mean, and it was him. I mean, he did the voiceover. He was on screen and all that too. And I thought, here's somebody that's not too afraid to make fun of himself in his advanced age, and he wasn't really making fun of himself. He was just enjoying it, having a good time.
Oh, if we're going to talk about that, we have to bring up the Man Rules commercials. Talking about making fun of your own reputation and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
What was it? Was that Bud Light?
I don't know.
I remember Man Rules. I don't remember what product.
It was one of the beer commercials, Man Rule, new Man Rule, and of course Burt Reynolds was not only on the Man Rule Council, he was the chairman of the Man Rule Council.
Yep. Oh, Nathaniel Lee. Yes, we already did talk about Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. It was my number 3. My number 4 and Jack's number 3. And Elijah the Ormon's naming off 80s films. But yeah, it is. It was pretty cool. If I'm gonna name a couple of that we haven't talked about.
I'll be right back, guys. I'll be right back.
Switching channels, and one that I could have talked with Jack, but he left, is a movie called Silent Movie by Woody Allen. Those would be my honorable mentions. Silent Movie is exactly that. It's a silent movie, and the only person who talks is Marcel Marceau, of all things. And it's just Manlaw's Miller Lite says, Perth, how you doing, sir? Yeah, I thoroughly enjoy it. I'm a big fan of Woody Allen's earlier work, at least, and I recommend that one. And Switching Channels is a remake of a film called His Girl Friday with Christopher Reeve. Bring it back to the comic book channel. And and Burt Reynolds. So with Kathleen Turner as the Girl Friday part. So what do you guys have to say about this? We got Elijah the R-Man. Most of the 80s movies I remember are martial arts movies. Do you remember them? You look young, man. In Disguise. I don't know if we're going to be talking Playgirl tonight, man. Yes, it is a man's night. Short Circuit is also a cool 80s movies that you watched as a kid. Yeah, we'll get to that. I think we'll get to that. I don't know. You have anything else other than Archer there, Rob?
We talked briefly at the beginning. Some people might not have heard, but I think a little bit about Gator and whatnot too. And just the one point that it's hard to emphasize enough is that when we talked early on, we started getting goofy about the Cannonball Run, is that Burt Reynolds at the time, being so big, could, like you say, walk into a studio and say, hey, I got my buddies with me. I want to do a film about XYZ. Just give me the money or whatever. And they basically would do it. You could experiment a lot more at the time and make movies that people had little itches to do, whereas now you really can't. And I've always thought that was pretty neat. And I don't know of really too many people that can do that these days. So for Burt, I appreciate the fact that he was able to make some of the stuff that he wanted. And of course, like I say, turn it on when he wanted to in some serious films.
All right, guys, I'm back.
Hey, I would have to say also, pointing to, for the 90s kids who are listening, he did the voice of, I want to say, Charlie in All Dogs Go to Heaven.
I think so too. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, which was actually a decent Don Bluth movie. Don Bluth for a while was really challenging the Disney label. Thank you very much, Dayton Pfeiffer, who says, if you haven't seen it, watch the film Malone. It's underrated.
It's not something that's really been talked about a lot. And even with us having seen it quite some time ago, I would agree with Dayton there. But again, he's produced so much stuff. You go, wow, there's no way I'm going to watch all these movies. So we weren't necessarily trying to make a list of those 5 best movies or our personal favorite 5. It was probably just a combination of both. But Malone definitely would be one I would mention.
Malone is another one of those Burt Reynolds tough guy movies in the 80s that kind of blend together for me.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's when you make a list like this, you're not necessarily talking about the best. If I'm going to, even when you bring up, like say a Robert De Niro, you might not be talking about, it's not all going to be King of Comedy or any of the other Martin Scorsese movies. You might actually put analyze that onto it, or Meet the Parent, because it's what you like, it's what you yourself have connected to for some reason, and that's kind of what we're looking at here. All right, Jack.
Yeah,
number 1. What would be your number 1? The number 1 Burt Reynolds film for you, at least right now. What would that be?
Well, I'm going for the obvious one. It's going to be Deliverance. It's one of his earlier films. Prior to Deliverance, he had done a lot of TV. But, Deliverance was what turned him into a movie star. It's a great horror film that you don't think of. A lot of people don't think of it as a horror film, but I think of it as a horror film, not an action film or a thriller or anything like that. And I thought his particular performance was fantastic. Everybody talks about the other, the supporting cast.
Ned Beatty's scene is always talked about.
Sure. Well, and that's because, all respect to Burt Reynolds, but Ned Beatty's 5 times the actor that Burt Reynolds was.
Okay.
Well, he was. Ned, let's just be honest and say that Ned Beatty's a more talented actor than Burt Reynolds. Not to say Burt Reynolds is bad. It's just that's the way it is. And I saw this, I saw this like right around, I think I was 10 or 11 for the first time, because Mom and Dad were not going to let me watch Deliverance when it first came out. It first came out in 1971, so they didn't let me watch it when it first came out because I was too small. So when I finally watched it, it scared it scared me more than Jaws did.
Mm-hmm.
And it has always had that sort of impact on me, where I go, name the 10 best movies you can think of, and the exact number will change, but Deliverance will always be on that list, always.
Yeah, I think the obvious is, I have to agree. And now I wouldn't say it's necessarily my favorite film of his. It's not one I would sit down and watch, but I have an appreciation for it, and I totally agree with the comment that I consider it a horror movie. I think, without being too specific, the three of us, we've all lived for the most part in the South, in Florida for most of our lives. And I've been in places off the road, and I know some of you guys have been too, especially on the channel. So to see that portrayed on film at the time with what they went through, and for them to take it seriously, was not something you saw too much. And definitely in the early 70s, I think, is when this film came out. You had that exploitation type thing coming out in films, where you saw things where people were really pushing the envelope that you do not get now, or if you do, you're like, oh, been there, seen that, done it. Totally different at the time. And I agree, it was also one of the first ones too that I was like, okay, I don't get it. What's the thing about it? Everybody made fun about the dueling banjos and the rednecks and people with no teeth and this and that. But you're right. You start watching, you're like, holy crap, this can really happen. This is probably what would happen. This is realistic in how they did it. It was filmed on location, which is a plus. I think he got hurt doing it.
He broke his coccyx, his tailbone.
Yeah,
I'm looking at the trivia here, and it says he was going down the rapids when the canoe capsized. Originally, a cloth dummy was used, but it looked too fake, like a dummy going over a waterfall. So while Reynolds was recovered, he was asked how to look. He asked John Boorman how to look like a dummy, and he said that Reynolds himself looked like a dummy going over a waterfall. So,
yeah, and again, back then, without the internet, without cell phones and everything else there too, it's very easy to kind of get isolated. And even though Ned Beatty was doing his thing and the other characters, you had to have that one guy as like the hero, and you saw these roles. And again, maybe not necessarily my favorite, but I'm not going to say it's. If there's one film you would sell anybody if they have to see Burt Reynolds, it would be this film, not anything else that we've talked about. It would have to be this film, absolutely, without question.
Yeah, I like this film. I knew you guys were going to talk about it, so I left it off mine. It was that, like I said before we started, Boogie Nights and Deliverance is going to be mentioned somewhere else, so I'm going to bring up something different so we could talk about more. I love this film. And yeah, you want to talk about iconic. Movies can set a tone just by and you just know that's dueling banjos. By the way, played not with two banjos in this movie.
Nope.
It's what was his name in RoboCop? By the way, not a lot of people know. Yeah, Ronnie Cox, who plays Dick something or other in RoboCop, is the third guy in this, because you had John Voight, Burt Reynolds, and Ronnie Cox. And if I remember correctly,
Ned Beatty, of course.
Yeah, Ned Beatty, and isn't John Voight the actual isn't he the hero of this movie? I mean, I know Burt Reynolds plays the tough guy, but doesn't. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen it, but great job and great freaking film. And I do agree with you. It is definitely, it's definitely a horror film, much in the ways like a movie like Hills Have Eyes, or that one with Loretta Swit and Warren Oates, where they're running with the devil or something like that, where they're just being chased down by normal people.
Yeah.
Here's one that it's very much like. You remember a movie called Southern Comfort with the
good movie.
National Guard guys going into the swamp?
Powers Booth, is that the one?
We are definitely doing an 80s film. So yeah, just such a good movie, and can highly recommend that film. If you are definitely somebody who does not know this film, check it out. They're already starting the 80s films that's kind of funny.
Well, when I put together my 5, I wasn't really necessarily looking for my favorites. I was thinking about what I thought his best 5 were. Because if I was picking my favorites, I would be including a lot of the ones that let's be honest, are not his best.
Right. Well, yeah, so, Cannonball Run, Stoker Ace. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because the best and yeah, I guess top 5 is more, what's your favorite? What's the one that really resonates with you and such? Because sometimes that's just the way it is. Braveheart came out in 1995. It was a great film for being so historically inaccurate. It was still a great film. But I've watched Billy Madsen about 100 times more than I have Braveheart.
Yeah.
Because it's
some
just
movies
more
are just
fun.
more watchable.
Yeah, it's a lot more fun. So, it's not a better film by any stroke of the imagination. It's just a lot more fun. So I can understand that. How about you, Rob? What's your number 1 Burt Reynolds?
Well, it would be Deliverance. I'd have to tell anybody, out of all the stuff he's done, you need to go watch this film. Even though I may enjoy some of the other ones, I think it. I'm not gonna. It's a great film. I don't know how it would be without him, but I do know that him being in there really solidifies it, and it just shows you what he's capable of. And it's probably the best vehicle, or one of them, out of all the things he's done that really allows him to be successful. Sometimes you can be a good actor in a crappy movie and you don't care, or the other way around. But this was just the right movie at the right time with the right script and everything else there too. So it's to me, it's the one film you'd have to say out of everything.
All right, and of course we just spent a good time talking about it. But Burt was box office. Man, Burt owned the box office in the 70s, and definitely for like 5 years after Smokey and the Bandit, I think he was number 1 box office draw.
Yeah, to give the younger people more of an example of what we're talking about, without really going too deep here, for 90s movies, I've always said this. I think that The Cable Guy is probably Jim Carrey's best film. And it's just phenomenal on a lot of levels, but I probably have watched Ace Ventura 2 100 times more, just like you said.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's just the way it is sometimes. It really is.
I heard it put one point about in one of the eulogies for Burt Reynolds that he was for the 70s what Tom Hanks was for the late 90s, early 2000s. Every movie he was in made money, and he got to do any movie he wanted because he was Burt Reynolds.
But the thing too, though, that really isn't, I think, celebrated, and again, I'm not sure who we would say kind of stands in his place. There's a difference, I think, back then of people that were considered men and the whole thing of masculinity, and he had all of that in addition to the acting and everything else. Whereas now you can be a big movie star and maybe make some movies that you want, but it just, Burt got to pick and choose and do a lot of different things, even though some of them really sucked. It's just not the same. So I think in a way he edges out Tom Hanks for that. Of course, everyone here knows I'm not a big Tom Hanks fan.
Yeah, that's
serious
that's
Tom Hanks
true.
I like. Goofy Tom Hanks I do not like.
See, now you and I have always disagreed on this one. I dig Dragnet, man. I like Volunteers. Okay. I like Bachelor Party.
Bachelor Party was tolerable, but not because
I know Tawny Katane. I want
Adrian's mad.
Well, okay. I think Tawny Katane had better boobs than Adrian Zemed. He had better hair though.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I want to see a Dragnet.
Wait, was Tawny Katane in Bachelor Party?
Yeah, she played the fiance.
Oh, okay. For some reason I'm picturing somebody else as a fiance.
For those of you who do not know Tawny Katane, look up Whitesnake, Here I Go Again. She's the one dancing on the cars.
Yes.
And that is, definitely. Okay. Yeah, she was a good looking lady. And she was in, she gets naked in a movie called Perils of Pauline or something like that. Yeah.
Well, didn't she also get naked in that stupid Ouija board horror movie?
I do not remember that.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, and do you call yourselves an 80s horror
No, I don't remember.
fan?
I don't remember. No, I don't. I call myself a guy who likes boobs. But no, I don't remember every freaking movie Tawny Katane was in. So it's, sorry, dudes.
Check out what Prime Matrix just said in chat. That I think I've heard of Pearls of Gwendolyn, but not in the land of
Pearls
Yik-Yak.
of Gwendolyn. Thank you. That was it. In the land of Yik-Yak. You are right. Oh, Witchboard. Yes. Witchboard, not Ouija board. Witchboard. Yes. That really did become a nudie film fest. Those did. Witchcraft. Yeah. Wow, I forgot all about that one, dude. Yeah, we are definitely talking about that. I've been advertising for the last half hour that the next week's top 5 bad 80s films. Get Switch Point back in here. It'll be the 3 of us plus whoever wants to jump on. Damon.
I want in.
Yeah. So my number 1, and it has not yet been mentioned. As much as I love Deliverance, even if it were on my list, it would not be number 1 because the best Burt Reynolds film.
Don't piss us off.
The best Burt Reynolds film of
off.
all time is Cop and a Hat. No. It was so bad. It was a movie so good that Burt Reynolds had to do it twice. And that is The Longest Yard. I love this movie. It made me laugh as a kid. It makes me laugh now. I just everything about this fucking film is awesome to me. It's one of I don't know. It's almost like I remember it being the first grown-up movie I saw. Mm-hmm. If that makes any sense, but it really was. It was just I obviously the story goes. He is, you probably saw the Adam Sandler and it's pretty close. He plays Paul Crew, and he gets mad as a girlfriend. He's driving drunk and he gets pulled over and pisses off the cops, and he gets thrown in prison where they don't like him because in the past he shaved points off of a football game. And
South football is king. I mean, especially back then.
Yeah.
Well, it's even worse. Doesn't it take place in Texas?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's not just the South; it's actually Texas. And shaving points for Texas is like sin. Oh,
and there's as a matter of fact, the line from Caretaker. All I'm saying is you could have robbed banks, sold dope, or stole your grandmother's pension checks, and none of us would have minded. But shaving points off of a football game, man, that's un-American. Yeah, that is. Oh my gosh, I love this film. The football game is exciting. Oh, he broke his fucking neck. It's got the guy who played Jaws in James Bond. It's just so much fun. I love this film. I liked both versions, as a matter of fact, but the original is better. Even though it did do a lot of weird camera tricks. But okay. So you kind of groaned a little bit, Rob. So let's hear it.
I thought it was okay. It wasn't, I would say, necessarily memorable for any particular reason. Nothing was bad about it. I would agree with you that it's certainly up there. It's not a deep movie, which certainly doesn't mean it's bad. I mean, it's not like that Dying movie we were talking about earlier, but no, it's not a bad film. And then when the remake came out, I just go, why was it even bother being made? I mean, it's not a bad film. It's certainly not. But yeah, it's he's known for that a lot more. But I think in his older age, it hasn't gotten talked about that much.
Yeah, and it should. It really should. But
let me write this down under the other notes. Not only does he not like the best sitcom ever, he doesn't like The Longest Yard. Just making a couple of notes.
I didn't say I didn't like WKRP. I simply said I didn't watch it.
But Rob's hard to please when it comes to movies.
I can be picky. We all have our tastes. Absolutely. It's just WKRP was just laugh track. Don't get me started.
So here's a little bit of trivia, and I heard this when I was a kid as well. I've always been a huge movie buff, and I read all sorts of books and such. But one of my favorite things that I heard about it was the director, Robert Aldrich, did not like the fact that movies would be played on TV because they were meant for the big screen. So he filmed it in a ratio that would not look good if they panned and scanned.
Yeah, because a lot of people today don't realize that you had what we used to call with the martial arts films, the longo vision, where they get shrunk and you wouldn't even see their heads and you'd see their bodies over the whole screens like two lines. And you're absolutely right. Yeah. And it was definitely a film or something you would see at the drive-in. God, are we even mentioning drive-in now?
Yeah.
You know, the last film I ever saw at a drive-in was the, oh God, what was it? Steven Seagal and
Out for Justice.
And Jesus, Goldie Hawn's boyfriend. I'm losing my ability to think
Kurt
of
Russell?
names.
Kurt Russell.
Oh, Executive Decision.
Thank you. Executive. That was the last film I saw at the drive-in. I went with Mom and Nathan, and we took one of Mom's friends from business school. At the time, my mother was getting her master's in accounting, and her friend from business school was from the Philippines, and he'd never been to a drive-in. He had no idea what a drive-in was, and we took him to this drive-in, and he was like, "This is a great idea. This is a great idea. I'm going to go back to the Philippines and open one of these, and I will have a chain of them across the island," because this was a kid whose family came from money. And he's like, and with this, I will make my fortune. And we all kind of thought he was crazy because, crying out loud, really drive-ins? Well, we didn't think about the fact that the Philippines is like 30 years behind the United States as far as, technological access. Because the poor folk in the Philippines don't have the internet, they don't have cell phones, they don't. So he went back home and opened up a chain of drive-in movies, and now he's a self-made millionaire. Every time anybody mentions drive-ins, that's what I think of.
I'm looking at the trivia for this. According to Albert S. Ruddy and Burt Reynolds on the DVD commentary, Robert Aldrich didn't like Michael Conrad. He's the one that played his friend, the one that gave the line that's un-American to shave points off of that guy. And he says that he insulted him and put him down so much that the one time he would go around, and if the person who did the best job for the day would get a candy bar, the one time that Conrad did well, Aldrich gave him the candy bar, and Conrad burst into tears. That was funny. Sonny Six Killer, who plays the part of the Indian, is a Cherokee and was an outstanding quarterback for University of Washington in the early 70s. All righty. Yeah, I love this film. I want to watch it again. But unfortunately, the only one on Netflix is the goddamn Adam Sandler one. Still, I enjoy it, but it's just not as good. It really isn't. Because they go for too many Adam Sandler jokes rather than actual. And and they went for the PG-13. So instead of he broke his fucking neck, it's he made him shit himself. Yeah, it just isn't the same. It just isn't the same. Anyway, let's go to the comment section and see what they've got to say about all of this. Eric Breen saying, I agree with Englentine. Michael Conrad's death was heartbreaking. Yes, it was. And 5 minutes later, you're laughing your ass off again. Nathaniel Lee is saying, I've never seen it, but was Boogie Nights based on somewhat on the life of John Holmes? That's what I heard.
Yes.
But
yes. Yes, he was.
Well,
you
Jack,
got the touch.
Do you know a little bit about John Holmes that you could expand upon? I just know that.
Well,
he had a big.
He had a really.
We know he
really
was
long Johnson. He started off in porn films sometime in the 60s. He, of course, died of AIDS in the early 90s. And that's about all I know, other than the fact that he got arrested a couple of times for cocaine possession. In one case, it was he actually had a cocaine in amounts that the police charged him with intent to sell. And his defense against possession with intent to sell was that he had no intent to sell. That his actual cocaine habit would have made the amount that he had about a week's worth of cocaine for him. And that's about all I know about the man, except that, the character Dirk Diggler in Boogie Nights is loosely based on him.
Okay.
Nathaniel Lee is saying Orca the Killer Whale was the last drive-in movie he remembers seeing. So, yeah. And Maranya is saying nobody probably mentioned this Burt Reynolds movie, but I still think The End is one of the best funny movies. So
nope, nobody mentioned that at all.
Not even a little bit.
No.
My number 3.
No, you're number 4. My number 3.
No, my number 3. It was it was my number 3. It was also so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, the end is freaking hilarious.
Half of everything I own, Lord. Half of everything. I promise you, 25% of everything I own.
Yeah.
I guarantee that 10%, Lord.
Yeah. Anyway, anybody else have anything more to add?
Oh man. Well, we can talk about his TV shows. Evening Shade was fantastic.
I liked it, and I remember how I felt watching it, but I do not remember anything about it except for it had what's his name before Fisher King.
Oh, and, Jesus, what was his name?
Jeter.
Michael Jeter. Yeah,
Michael Jeter. And I remember there was a scene where they were sitting down listening to the Commitments do Try a Little Tenderness. Beyond that, I don't remember much except for
Did it have a laugh track?
No, it didn't.
No, it wasn't one of those.
Interesting.
Because remember, at that time, it was him and there was another show I loved watching that got canceled in its first season was the one with John Ritter and Billy Bob Thornton about the politicians. Yeah. England team wants to end this stream and go watch some movies. That and to eat dinner because I did not eat today.
You didn't get any of it, man?
No, dude. I've been sick all day, and I'm finally getting over it. So yeah.
Well, it's in the fridge.
Okay, but yeah, good times. Anyway, and plus we finished our top 5s, Eric. That was the whole point. Anywho, yeah, definitely check out these films. Before we do go, Jack, run down your top 5 list.
All right. Okay. My top 5 was Deliverance, Boogie Nights, Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, The End. This is not the correct order. This is just how I got them written down. And then I also mentioned The Player, but you didn't let me get away with it. So I also ran The Longest Yard.
Okay. Rob, you want to go over your top 5 again?
Number 5, Stroker Ace. Number 4, Cannonball Run. Number 3, Heat. Number 2, Sharky's Machine. And number 1, like Jack, Deliverance.
All righty. Now, I had, as honorable mentions, I had Switching Channels, which is a remake of His Girl Friday. A lot of fun, that film. And Silent Movie, which is a Woody Allen film. Check it out. It is really a silent film, though, so you're not going to get it. It's just funny. The shower scene is fucking hilarious.
The only person who speaks in the entire thing was Marcel Marceau,
who was a professional mime at the time. But my top 5 were at number 5, Cannonball Run. Number 4, Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. Number 3, The End. Number 2, Hooper. And number 1, The Longest Yard. So make sure you guys you check those out if you're looking for a movie night. Get your girl and say, we're going to watch a man's movie and check out some Burt Reynolds. Yeah. What do we have? Maranya saying, thought so. Remembered watching him on it. Okay, that's Gunsmoke. And Eric Breen is asking, Jack, have you seen any of the Riverboats with Darren McGavin? Obviously, no, you haven't.
Nope.
Well, Obviously, the old farts like to talk old stuff. Go figure, man. We're definitely doing this again next week.
Well, we like to talk good stuff and why stuff was memorable. I mean, let's be honest. A lot of Burt Reynolds stuff was just pure schlock, even by today's standards, but it was still entertaining. And that's really what it comes down to. Why are we entertained by these,
And in truth, he was he
was entertaining. You would pay money to see him. You didn't care what the movie was. Kind of like maybe Tom Cruise today, in a sense, minus the masculinity part. You go to see it because he wants to just give you a good show.
Yeah, it might also be the fact that if you put a guy like Burt Reynolds in a room and he started talking, I think he would own the room.
Yeah, charisma. He has a lot of charisma.
I don't get that from, like, say, Robert De Niro. I get the feeling that Robert De Niro would be a corner piece, but if you you put a Burt Reynolds or a Rock or maybe even Tom Cruise, they would own the room. But Tom Hanks probably would as well. But yeah, definitely Burt Reynolds. You're laughing, Rob. What?
I'm just reading what somebody wrote in the comments.
Oh,
I'm getting a larger audience, but half our demo is already asleep.
Well, yeah.
yeah, we are old farts.
Oh, geez, 11 o'clock. I'm going to have to take my meds soon.
Either that or they're just waking up for breakfast because they went to sleep at 4. So it can go either way. But damn, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, we're old. I was saying I'm way too young to be 50 or to be 48 as it is. Yeah, and you're going to be 48 in December, right?
Allegedly.
That has not yet been proven.
If you see me, you wouldn't think that. But no, it's interesting to talk about that because I know that a lot of the activity that I've seen over the past few weeks on your channel with comics and stories in general is a bit of the social political stuff and how it's in there. And I think really the essence is you want to talk about a story, you want to talk about why it's a good story, and the way people are today is they get so mad from either side that you just want to talk about what makes something good. And I know the three of us sometimes have gotten into very spirited conversations about stuff, but at the end of the day, we're able to basically say, you know what, this is why I think this Burt Reynolds film is entertaining. I didn't care for Best Whorehouse in Texas at all. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's good, but I know you liked it. You can explain why. And I do like it when people are able to do that. And not having talked with Jack in a while, it was interesting to hear some of his stuff. It brought back some memories of some of the movies you mentioned and some of the comments.
I'm serious, dude. I think the last time I talked to you, you were 19.
Probably.
So that was
quite some time ago.
What was that? That was 30 years ago, maybe?
I'm not going to say anything. As a matter of fact, the way I'm going to say it, everybody in the comment section will think it's me saying about myself. But Rob, remember, I'm a bigger dick than you are.
Oh my God, no! It was even. How long ago?
Oh my God, that was 85. By the way, I still remember that shit from 1985. We were.
It might have been his wedding. It might have been Aaron's wedding reception.
No. That was 1985 when that was said because we were in Lakeland.
Oh yeah.
And we were playing D&D and Jack says something and one of us, I don't remember who, but somebody looked at Jack and went, "You're a dick." And he goes, "Well, I'm a bigger dick than you are." And we all just laughed and got confused because that's not insulting us. What the fuck? That's not even a comeback. You're just agreeing with us a lot.
I was agreeing with you, man.
I'm a bigger dick. You didn't. It's not like you said, "Well, I got her," or anything like that. It's just like, "Well, I'm a bigger dick than you are."
Topically speaking, because again, we always like to joke and talk about how the 80s movies were better than what's today, or I like to say that anyway. We could talk about how the whole thing we've just mentioned with Burt Reynolds and what was going on in the 70s and 80s, how you actually had dicks in movies, and how you really don't have that today. I mean,
wait, do you mean like penises or bad?
No, dickheads.
Assholes.
Dickheads. Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, but
James
a dick
Spader.
is different than an asshole. We know that.
James Spader in the 80s was a professional dickhead.
Absolutely. And some of his best work was done when he was a dick. He wasn't a douchebag or a prick. He was a dick.
He was a dick. Yeah.
very noticeable differences. Who's in today's movies?
Something that oh God, what's her name? Kim Cattrall. Something Kim Cattrall said about movies then as compared to then now, movies now, is that nobody worried back then about offending people.
Correct.
Yeah.
Except in very specific. I mean, you didn't make obvious racist jokes, and you didn't make, obvious. You didn't do that kind of thing. But otherwise, nobody cared if you got close. And then there was, I honestly doubt that, say, Blazing Saddles could be made today.
Oh, no freaking way. No way. They would neuter the hell out of Blazing Saddles. Oh, and you could tell an older person because they'll bring up Kim Cattrall and they'll be, oh, Samantha. Nope. Lassie. Yeah, you can tell a person's age if they know her from being Samantha or Lassie.
Okay, but isn't that the same thing that's going on in comic books today?
Yes.
Kind of. Yeah, yes. It very much is. And yes, this is the crowd it pisses off the most.
The one thing I was going to bring up about a couple weeks ago when we talked about My Bodyguard.
Somebody threw away a perfectly good white boy.
Oh, you guys talked about My Bodyguard?
Well, I was going to mention it about as far as 1980s because not just the coming of age, but what I'd mentioned earlier at the beginning of this particular cast was that back then you had people that looked like average, ordinary people, not necessarily beautiful or ugly, but you had guys that physically looked like they were young men versus average looking guys. And today you have a lot of pretty people. They all look the same and are all real small and tiny and 5'6" and Daredevil. It's
everybody's got abs
absolutely right.
and chests and instead of just looking like kids.
Chris Makepeace would not have become a movie star if he started off today.
Correct.
It's Woody the Wabbit.
But in comic books, because you guys know I don't really watch them, pay attention, and this is a comic book channel. But isn't that kind of what's going on there? I imagine that people were not drawn the way they were drawn 30 years ago.
Well, even back then, everybody had the abs and were thin and awesome looking, but the thing is it wasn't a problem back then.
Right.
Nowadays, they want. I even did a video about it. There was a whole movement about wanting real body shapes, but the only other body shape they put was fat. That's where a gentleman in our little circle, he calls himself Fat Panther, because they wanted Black Panther to be fat. Like, even if they started off fat, if they're running around doing superheroic things, they're going to lose the fucking weight and become muscular. They're exercising. People who exercise and run around, like say you, Rob, look thin. People who do not, like myself, do not look thin. So yeah, it really is ridiculous, the whole body shaming movement and all that kind of stuff that's going on.
30 years ago, you could have made a spin-off comic called The Fat Panther, and then if it sold, you could have maybe had something going with it. You could have had a fat superhero, and it would have been a big deal, other than it's making fun of something else, not making a statement about the current condition of our political climate and all that crap. It would have just been fun, and now you can't really do that. And I think that really constrains the ability to tell a story.
In the comments section, Kevin DeYoung, bring it back to the movie thing, is talking about how the Vigilante movie. I mean, literally, there was a good movie made earlier this year, a remake of Death Wish with Bruce Willis. Watch it; it is a good film. But because it happened at the time of the school shooting, oh no, this is wrong. I'm like, no, actually, the movie itself questions all that shit. It's not a rah go shoot people in schools movie. It's a
neither was the first one, for that matter.
Why don't we do something about the people who would go up and shoot schools? It just I like that Death Wish remake. I thought it was fine.
It was certainly not as explicit and dirty and grimy as the first, but not bad.
Mm-hmm.
And now Jennifer Garner's doing Peppermint.
Yeah, same freaking thing, basically.
Are they gonna be giving Peppermint the same sort of criticism that they gave
in
Death
this
Wish?
In this one you've got a woman who's doing it. So yeah, have a good night, Montanui. Enjoy. But I don't think they would, because it's a woman finding revenge. Because they did another movie at the beginning of summer with Gabrielle Union, where her family is in trouble and she's basically going around killing bad guys to get to them. Break-In, I think it was called. Yeah, the women could take revenge all they want, but it's toxic masculinity these days. I don't think Dirty Harry could have been made these days either, especially that last scene where he's got a gun on the black guy and he's toying with him. But the people who don't like that scene are missing the point that he's out of bullets and and the bad guy isn't. Yeah. And he's tough talking him. You got to ask yourself, do you feel, he explains how powerful the handgun is to understand the damage it's going to do to your body, not just kill you. And he tough talks him down. That's the whole point. He doesn't have to kill that guy.
Yeah, it's real machismo, real confidence based off of years of experience, and he's making a calculated risk. It's believable coming from him as opposed to somebody that might be able to do it today. Very few people can pull that off.
Yep. Kevin Dion says he saw Death Wish, loved the movies, haven't seen the newest one, but he's into old kung fu movies. Yeah, I was never really into the old Chinese kung fu films, but man, when we were teenagers, being a ninja was in.
That was an 80s phenomenon, big time. Yeah. And El Rey was a lot of those kung fu movies, that channel.
I remember Revenge of the Ninja. And what was I think that might have been the one with what is his name? Carradine? David Carradine or somebody like that? Not
it was Shoko, not the guy, the ninja guy.
Yeah, no, it wasn't him. Who played? He was the FBI director in Silence of the Lambs. He was in Silverado. Glenn. Scott Glenn. Yeah.
Scott Glenn, yeah.
Yeah, he played a ninja. Yeah, nothing kills the good mood of a movie stream quicker than talking about today's movie rules. Yeah, that's why I keep bringing it back to the good old days.
Oh, man. My God. Kevin, American Ninja. He has great skills.
Oh, and last week, Rob brought up a movie that I loved as a kid, and I watched and it sucked so bad, Rob. I found it and it does suck so bad. It's called Kill or Be Killed.
I told you. Horrible.
Holy shit. Oh, it's god awful. Yeah.
Wait, that sounds so familiar. Kill or
It's
Be
the
Killed.
one there was the one they had the kung fu fight in the trailer. The guy had the big base that they're sending the team in after, but nobody had a facial expression. You had the guy hot dog, that guy.
Oh God. God. Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
That movie sucks with
the least action guy, and they put him in a kung fu fight with somebody who actually knows what he's doing, and he somehow wins anyway.
Yeah, it was so bad, so
oh my
God.
Bad.
Nathaniel, I want to watch it again.
Jim Cotta.
Hey, the guy was a legitimate gymnast. They had a lot of fog machines. They had that pommel horse in there where everybody came at him ninja style one at a time, and he took him out doing, I forget the name of the minute. I mean,
the random high bar, high bar between the walls of the alley that he could flip around and kick people on. That's what I liked about that. Here's a problem I have with movies like this. So they get the gymnast to go in to infiltrate this contest. And so he goes to masters of all these different skills. And I'm thinking, why don't you just send in the guys who already know what they're doing? Why are you getting this gymnast guy? Just send in everybody else, because they are, this guy's a master of fighting. That guy's a master of archery.
It's the Armageddon problem. Is it easier to teach oil drillers to be astronauts than it is to teach astronauts to be oil drillers?
Yeah. It's silly freaking fun, but what you gonna do? I mean, it's obviously not meant to win Oscars or anything. It's just
what was his name? The gymnast in Gymkata. What was his name?
Kurt something. I think he does. I know who it is. I have to look.
I mean, he was a gold medal Olympian, if I remember correctly. But
looking it up now.
Yeah, for every Back
Kurt
to
Thomas.
the Future. Yeah, Kurt Thomas.
Yeah, 1985.
There you go.
For every Back to the Future, there is a full moon high. There's just a bad 80s film out there. So, but some of them were just fun and entertaining, enjoyable.
But think about it, though. Here's a guy that's a gold medal Olympus, whatever. He, whether he was a good actor or not, whatever. But you would have somebody in the 80s go, you know what? Hey, this guy's legit. Let's take it and see if it translates into a movie. If not, okay, fine. But maybe we can do something with it. We can experiment. Just like I like to go back to, I think, one of the best movies, Conan. A lot of those guys in Conan were buddies of Arnie's that were legitimate weightlifters all around. They were legitimate big badass motherfuckers. I mean, they weren't these, pretty looking guys that weighed 160. You know what I'm saying? They were.
Oh, geez. What was his name? The one guy, he was one of the two James Earl Jones lieutenants.
Yeah.
The one who they put in the waist length wig. Not the guy with a mustache, but he has gone on to make a career out of playing big, rough-looking guys who you don't need to actually speak. He was in the
Thorson.
Yeah, him. He was in The Running Man as the guy who needed to go score some steroids.
Oh yeah, he was in Mallrats for the
exactly. He was in Mallrats, in the Quick and the Dead, Quick and the Dead, that Sharon Stone gunfight movie. He was the Swedish national champion. He has made a career out of just being big there. Yeah. There's a small film. There's a small film out in 1990 starring Richard Dreyfuss called Let It Ride. And a guy how he makes a living is he'll find a spot and then he'll spread his arms out. And people could pay him to however many spaces they need. And so Richard Dreyfuss goes up and he's like, $25 a spot, 6 races, 10 spot, and he's like, he goes, $500 a day, not a bad living. And he goes, yeah, just for being big. Yeah. Good morning, Dakina. How you doing, sir? Hope you have a good morning. But let's see, 36 Chambers. That was amazing, and the sequel is good too, says Kevin Dion. I haven't seen that one. I haven't watched that one. They had Kevin Bacon in Footloose playing a gymnast, and he just happens to find parallel bars in a random warehouse to show off on.
But you know what? In all seriousness, if you didn't live it and don't know it, anything was possible in the 80s.
That is true.
The thing is, we talk about this like it was, a recent occasion, but, back in the 40s, they got Sonia Henning, who was a gold medal winning figure skater. And somehow every one of her movies took place in the winter, and there was always a frozen pond in the town she was in. Always. Wonder why. So it's not a recent phenomenon.
Oh, and Eric Breen, Jennifer Tilly looked hot in that red dress. Let It Ride is, I love that movie. It's just it's a small film, but it is absolutely perfect. And to bring up Rob's point, in the 80s, we explored both storm drains and abandoned nut houses. So yeah, God bless the 80s. Where are you going? Out. When you be back? Later. Let's go explore the abandoned nut house. Yeah.
But I have to correct you on something.
That drainage pipe out behind our grandmother's house that dumped into the lake. And it's like,
we went all through.
We can climb into this. Where are we going? Oh, it's a sewer. We're under the street now.
No, it wasn't a sewer. It was a drainage. It was the street drainage.
Yeah.
Things. Yeah. What were you saying, Rob?
I was going to correct you a little bit on your words, because it's extremely important that you have certain phrases that represent exactly what you're talking about. So it's not the nut house or the crazy house, which usually means you're, bad shit. It's an institute for the criminally insane. So just to get that right.
Which one are you guys talking about?
What was it?
Sunland.
You guys went to Sunland? Wow.
Yeah, we used to explore the hell out of that. We always waited for the nighttime, because didn't want to get caught, and then we would jump over the fence and go explore.
It's reminiscent of that movie Session 9.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And yes, by the way, homeless people did live there and scared the fudge out of us a couple of times. It was like, holy shit, because we didn't know they lived there. But yeah, a couple of times. I remember me and Tim went in, and of course, we had our lead pipes and that samurai sword. What a dumb fuck. But yeah, we were carrying it around, and we hear, yeah, and we just ran. It's like fucking Weird Harold and Fat Albert. Run faster, you fool, you fool.
But it reminds me, it's like things today, you just go, and that's part of the horror or any of those things, is how can it be horrific today or realistic?
Have a good day, Dayton. Thanks for stopping by, man. And thank you for the super chat.
I just saw, without spoiling it, I think it was Hereditary. I thought it was shot very well. I thought it has some great visuals, and I could totally understand people saying it's a very great film or it's a completely boring film. I mean, it is that close, and I haven't decided which way I want to go on that. That's all I'm going to say. I liked what they were trying to do, but you know what? We've seen it all before in the 80s. It was probably done better back then, but it looked so good, and it almost captured that spirit of those 80s films.
It was a really good movie up until about 2/3 in. And then it's like it tried to be so much. And I think part of the problem was it wanted to have a twist ending, except for the twist ending just didn't seem to be where it was naturally going.
Yep. Without spoiling it for people, you're correct. But very few this year have been entertaining, and that one was at least watchable.
Yeah. But yeah, that was actually pretty. That was, like I said, me and Gail saw it recently at the Cheapy Theater in Altamont. So there you go. Anyway, man, we do. I would like to do this again. If you want to come back next week, we'll start talking about some 80s films. I'm sure we can get a full house on that 80s films, though.
What's the theme going to be? Because, like, the audience should know, absolutely right. We don't talk at all during the week. We're busy doing our own things. We don't coordinate and try to predict what each other person is going to do. We just come at this completely cold. I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah. We mentioned 80s films, but I like the obscure. I like talking about the obscure stuff, but I don't want to limit it because obviously everybody's got their idea. And what's obscure to us or what is mainstream to us may actually be obscure to some people. I mean, obviously, Aliens, Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, those are mainstream films. But if you're talking to somebody who is a 90s kid or a millennial, movies that we think are like Conan or something along those lines that are just obviously everybody's seen them might not be. So yeah. There are some, of course, there's no need to talk about Back to the Future. There's no need to talk about Revenge of the Jedi or Empire Strikes Back or Ghostbusters, Terminator. But there are a lot of other films that are just tons of fun. I want to know if there's anybody who has not seen Princess Bride in the audience, because
Well, I'd raise my hand if you could see me, because I never saw it.
You've never seen The Princess Bride?
Holy shit!
Allow myself to repeat myself. I have not
ever.
Just parts. It was to a point where that stuff was getting a little silly, and I was like, I only recently saw Spaceballs.
Jesus God, what rock have you been living under, dude?
Yeah, you got homework to do, brother.
I don't. Oh, come on. This is where we get to argue about that stuff. Come on.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I say it. I say it all the time. What do you think? I say Rob should watch Princess Bride. Let's leave it to the comment section.
Well, I like the idea of, for lack of a better term, I'll title it the other 80s films. That, like you say, the obscure ones or ones that maybe you think of might be a bit different. Because I know there's a lot of experimenting, what we've talked about. A lot of people have thoughts on what these movies are, which may not really be what they are. I mean, Back to the Future, great film, a lot of fun.
Xanadu, dun 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 dun.
I mean,
Xanadu.
I don't think anybody wants to talk about Xanadu.
Maranya apparently does.
Now that you are here in Xanadu.
God, that movie sucked, Jack. It sucked. That movie was so bad.
And yet you still watch it about 5 dozen times.
No, I did not. No. Now
did.
I did not. I did not.
I was there.
No, because as far as dancing, skating movies, you had that Linda Blair one that was all over the place. And as far as Olivia Newton-John movies, I liked Grease, and I liked the one that she made with Olivia Newton, with John Travolta after that. What was it? Two of a Kind, I think it was.
Two of a Kind, yeah. Two of a Kind with Gene Hackman as God.
Yeah,
and
yeah. I mean, so yeah, I remember watching.
What's his name from Gladiator? Is the devil.
We're being asked about blaxploitation films. Or just exploitation films.
All right, let's do that.
Okay.
Let's all pick a black exploitation film, and we'll talk about it next week. And we'll talk about why it's bad and why it's most importantly why it's 1980s.
They're asking about it right now.
They're asking about it right now.
Okay, if you
okay, go on ahead, Rob.
I was just going to say one that's not quite on the level of what he's probably getting at since he's being so specific from the 1980s, and we all know this. Action Jackson.
Oh, what a great fucking
good
film.
Choice.
Absolutely. Really too easy. But again, it's not on the level of blaxploitation. I could go with Blackula, but I don't know if he thinks I'm being serious.
Yeah. I always liked the Human Tornado because that guy was freaking ridiculous. He was like, I'm a Kung Fu star. I'm like, what arthritic Kung Fu school did you take lessons from? Even my 50-year-old ass could raise my leg higher to kick somebody. It was, I mean, it's almost like when.
Are you talking about like Black Belt Jones?
No, it's Dolomite, the human tornado.
Oh, Dolomite, yeah.
Yeah. When he would do Kung Fu, it looks like when people on TV are making fun of doing Kung Fu.
Well, you do know that Dolomite is a satire, right? It's a parody.
Hey, rock on then. It works.
You didn't know that, but yeah.
No,
yeah,
I didn't.
Dolomite's a comedy that's making fun of blaxploit. It's kind of like the Hebrew Hammer.
God, fucking brilliant film.
Shabbat shalom, motherfuckers. Boom, 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 boom.
I like my favorite scene in that is where he's coming in to talk to Santa Claus, and they've got him in the room to see if he's the actual Hebrew Hammer. And man, they're just making me wait. Why are they making me wait? And then you see this complaining meter go up and up and up. And then finally it rings Jewish confirmed. Yeah. I was like, oh, gosh, that was a fucking funny film. Yeah.
Oh,
anyway, Dolomite, Rudy Ray Moore. That I dug that. And of course, Foxy Brown.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta dig yourself some Pam Grier.
Anything with Pam Grier, man. Anything. Yeah. Holy shit, yeah.
A lot of fun, that one. Anyway, gang, Old Man Comics is feeling old, so we're going to wrap this thing up. Thank you guys for joining in the conversation and such. It's a lot of fun talking about Burt Reynolds. I want to do more of these kind of live streams talking about movies and, hey, you know, nostalgia. I mean, come on. Like Eric Breen's or Edward Breen's saying, Clash of the MF and Titans. Yeah, we definitely have to bring up movies like that next week, and we will. But thank you. Maranya is saying Action Jackson with the guy who played Apollo Creed. Yep. And
yeah.
So by all means, guys, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for the comments.
More of these would be great as long as we don't have to do them every time somebody dies. I don't want, you know.
I like doing that. I think it's a celebratory thing.
Yeah, but I just don't want people to actually freaking die first. You know what I mean?
We're not going to be like, hey, Arnie, can, you know, here's a car with no brakes. But, obviously, if something happens, you know, you got
So we want to do like an obscure, off the radar type movie, exploitation or otherwise, then next time.
Yeah. Next week, we'll talk about
movies from the 80s that aren't the obvious ones to talk about. Don't necessarily have to be obscure, but they're not the ones that people think of immediately when they think 80s movies.
Yeah. All righty. Well, guys, once again, thanks for joining, and thank you very, very much for watching. Have a good night.